Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. In this video, we are going to look at a really interesting character from one of the finest psychological horror films of this century, the Babadook. Even if you have not seen the film, you must have come across its titular character in memes. This character went from being a scary one to a beloved queer mascot in 2016, appearing in pride marches and parties and even on dildos. Today's video will explore why the Babadook became such a beloved cult classic. Sit back and enjoy as we delve into his story, characteristics, and how exactly he turned into such a popular meme. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Who is the Babadook and what's its story? The Babadook is Jennifer Kent's feature directorial debut based on her short film Monster. The film revolves around Amelia, a single mother who has just lost her husband, and Samuel, her extremely mischievous son. Things start to get worse for them when Sam becomes obsessed with an imaginary monster. He even builds weapons to fight this monster. One day, a pop-up book randomly appears in their home and Sam asks his mother to read it to him. The book is titled Mr. Babadook, and it describes him. The description gets progressively worse and they are disturbed by it. Samuel is now convinced that the Babadook is a real monster. The Babadook essentially haunts all who read the book. As the victim gets increasingly frightened, the monster becomes more frightening. This is exactly what happens to Amelia. She tries to get rid of the book, but that seems impossible. It finds its way back to their house with a new warning that the haunting will increase the more she resists it. The monster starts to drive her crazy. She almost even kills her son because of his influence. The Babadook is portrayed as an embodiment of her grief. It is only when she finally accepts the death of her husband that the monster grows smaller and loses its hold over her. The film ends with her keeping it locked in her basement, feeding it now and then. What does the Babadook look like? The Babadook appears as a tall, shadow-like boogeyman who wears a long coat and a top hat. He has a white face with sunken eyes and small pupils. His mouth is surrounded by black paint and he has a manic grin. He has long black fingers that look like claws. The way he moves is very cartoonish. He seems to emerge from the shadows, constantly lurking around in the background every time she tries to ask for help. Towards the end of the movie, though he is reduced to nothing, by then he is just a shadow, an invisible force that Amelia keeps locked in her basement. The character's appearance was inspired by the man in the beaver hat from Todd Browning's silent film, London After Midnight. The character was played by Lon Chaney, who is fondly remembered for playing the most terrifying characters like the Hunchback of Notre Dame and the original Phantom of the Opera. An interesting fact about London After Midnight is that it is a lost film. Its only known copy was destroyed in a fire. How is the Babadook considered to be the embodiment of grief? Now, I have already mentioned that this character is an embodiment of grief. Let us take a look at how exactly the film makes this happen. The 5 stages of grief play out very nicely in the movie. Amelia is in denial about the death of her husband in the beginning. She refuses to talk about or deal with it, choosing to isolate herself from those who do. All Amelia has is her son, who is somewhat of a problem child. Every time she tries to deny the monster's existence or get rid of it, it only comes back stronger, just like grief does. The monster shows her visions of her killing her son and a dog. She starts getting more and more erratic and angry after this. She even considers killing her son, who is a constant reminder of what she has lost. The Babadook grows as her fear grows, and he eventually tries to bargain with her, telling her to let him have Sam and that everything would be fine if she did that. It is only when Amelia finally accepts her husband's death that she can overpower the monster. It is only through this monster's possession that Amelia gets to acknowledge and express her feelings. This includes the repressed hatred that she has for Samuel. She even yells out that she wishes he died instead of her husband. She never got the time to deal with his death, and she was immediately thrown into single motherhood. Samuel is also a child who is portrayed as someone hard to deal with. She also has a job as a caregiver at an assisted living facility, which shows that her life revolves around caring for others, always caring for everyone but herself. The film shows how harmful bottling up negative emotions is, and that it should be dealt with instead of suppressed to truly move forward. How does one know if the Babadook is around? So by now, we all know that the Babadook appears when someone reads the pop-up book which tells us about the monster. But how exactly does one know when he is around? Well, the pop-up book has the answer to that too. You hear a rumbling sound, and then you hear 3 sharp knocks. Baba, Badook, Dook, Dook. It goes. Then your closet door suddenly opens, and you hope that he will not hear anything, and that is how you realize that he is around. The book goes on to mention that you better close your eyes, count to 10, and sleep off. It says that you would better hope that you would not wake up again, because if you do, and if you look, you will see him, and you will never be able to get rid of him after that. Well, this is exactly what happens to Amelia and Samuel. The monster is forever with them after their encounters with him. What does the Babadook eat? The Babadook does not seem to consume any actual food. If we go with the idea that it is an embodiment of grief, which it is, what it does seem to feed on is fear, grief, and all the negative emotions that Amelia seems to keep locked up. With this, the monster grows stronger and stronger as its victims seem to become more unstable psychologically. After it attacks Amelia, she starts to get incredibly violent. She is now more isolated from the world and impatient too. She starts to take her anger out on Samuel and has more visions of the monster. She cuts off the phone line to isolate them further, and she hallucinates about killing Sam. Throughout this process, the monster grows even stronger. Her mental distress is a direct contributor to this. The monster reminds her of all the emotions she is bottling up by bringing up Oscar, her dead husband. When all these emotions come to the surface, the Babadook gets strong enough to possess her. So the victims and their repressed emotions are what feed this creature and make it stronger. In the end, we see Amelia feeding it worms regularly, and it is an entity that is weak and invisible, kept at bay in her basement. Where does the Babadook reside? The Babadook first appears at its victim's house in the form of a pop-up book. When the book is read, he slowly starts manifesting. By reading it out, Amelia has led him inside her home, and he is lurking around, slowly growing. According to the story, once he is entered, there is no way to get rid of him. Soon, strange things start happening in the house. Sam is convinced that the monster is real, but Amelia refuses to take him seriously. Even when strange things happen to her, like when she finds glass in her food, she blames Sam, who tells her that Babadook did it. This makes her angry, so she rips the book up and throws it away. Sam soon has a vision of the monster and then proceeds to have a seizure. Amelia also finds the book back at their house with new images now. The book now depicts her killing her son, their dog, and herself. Now that she has acknowledged the monster's presence, it grows and we see what looks like the Babadook's suit hung up. The monster is in her head, and it slowly manifests into reality when she refuses to deal with her grief and gets progressively worse. Towards the end of the movie, the monster lives in their basement. This suggests that even though you heal from your traumas, they never truly go away. You never truly forget them. Amelia keeping it locked up and feeding it every day shows how she is now in control of the situation, keeping it in check and not letting it consume her. Is the Babadook real or imaginary? Many people who have watched this movie believe that the Babadook is just all in Amelia's head and that he is not real and that he is just a metaphor for her grief. This seems like a reasonable explanation considering how she is the most affected by the monster. It could be interpreted as her unprocessed trauma and depression finally taking hold of her life, driving her to the edge. The visions, the book returning to their house, all of these could just be hallucinations. But what this does is just give the movie a cliche idea that everything was in their heads all along. Having the monster exist outside her head makes it more universal. It does not just represent Amelia's trauma that way. It represents all kinds of repressed, internalized trauma. His character brings this out. He externalizes it and shows that she has to deal with all this to heal and move on. Calling him imaginary would take away all this from the movie. Calling Amelia delusional and the Babadook imaginary would completely ruin the message that the movie is portraying. That ignoring negative emotions makes it bigger and scarier and all the harder to deal with. How is the Babadook an LGBTQ icon? The Babadook earned his status as a queer icon initially through Tumblr. A user uploaded a screenshot of the movie appearing in the LGBT section on Netflix, but a discourse on Tumblr started by user Instagram's comment, whenever someone says the Babadook isn't openly gay, it's like, did you even watch the movie? Is what cemented this position. It soon spread all over the internet and he became a popular meme. People liked the idea that he was just a man who liked drama, drawing drawing up little cartoons in his pop-up book, wearing large hats, and living in the basement with a family with whom he had a difficult relationship. The fact that these characters accept him and live in peace at the end also seems to support this theory. It is like coming out to a family that is not really accepting and then slowly learning to live with that. He is a powerful character who cannot be killed, a character who is unaffected by the bury your gays trope unlike those before him. The Babadook is also a part of the Urban Dictionary, which writer-director Jennifer Kent seems to love. He became a huge part of the parades during Pride Month, and some dildos are called the Babadook, which pays homage to this queer icon. The fact that this is all it took to make a character a queer icon shows us how lacking they are in cinema, and that there is a failure in sufficiently representing these identities. What are the Babadook's powers and abilities? The Babadook is not a creature that is confined to the ground. We see this in the bedroom scene when Amelia starts to hear something. The door opens and we hear a noise. Babadook, dook, dook. Amelia covers her face with a blanket, and when she takes it off, we see the Babadook crawling around on the ceiling and then jumping on her. It is also capable of causing hallucinations. Amelia suddenly sees herself killing Sam, and she also sees a vision of her husband's death. The Babadook can psychologically manipulate its victims by using their negative, unaddressed emotions against them. It is their internalized trauma that finally ends up getting used against them. It is also able to go from one place to another at its own will. We see that it can possess people when Amelia kills their dog and then tries to kill Sam. The Babadook is also capable of shapeshifting. It is a top hat wearing monster throughout the movie, but it is more like an invisible force by the end. How does the Babadook move around? The Babadook has very jerky movements. He enters with a creepy knock, and we do not see him till halfway through the movie. Even when he does appear on screen, it is hard to spot him. He lurks around in the shadows and moves like a character out of a cartoon. When he does appear on screen, he does so in a very creepy way, surprising the audience. You do not want him to go away, especially when he seems to always be lurking and suddenly jumping out from the shadows. The hold he has over Amelia shows how he is the representation of her grief. He smothers and changes her just like it does the more she represses it. Does the Babadook have any weaknesses or vulnerabilities? The scariest thing about the Babadook is that he cannot be killed. As Samuel says, it is truly impossible to get rid of Mr. Babadook. When Amelia confronts her grief, it weakens the Babadook. It is only when she fully acknowledges her husband's death that the Babadook loses his hold over her. So as victims, confronting their own repressed emotions makes the Babadook vulnerable and almost invisible. The film ends this way. We see Samuel celebrating his birthday on the actual date. This is a sign that Amelia has been processing her grief. Since her husband died while driving her to the hospital as she was giving birth, Amelia always celebrated Sam's birthday with his cousin. She seems to have gotten over this now. We see her slipping away from the party. She goes down to the basement and feeds the monster, showing that she is now acknowledging and dealing with it, and it does not have a hold over her. What is the cultural and psychological significance of the Babadook in modern horror films? The Babadook serves as a metaphor for mental health issues and why exactly people must not leave them unchecked. It shows how one can truly move forward with one's life if one's emotions are dealt with instead of suppressed. The ending is almost perfect, and it just feels right to see that the monster, a representation of Amelia's grief, is being dealt with and accepted instead of completely disappearing. These themes seem to be why the movie has a place in the elevated horror genre, which includes films like It Follows and Get Out. The movie also got a shout out in one of the most popular horror franchises, Scream 2022, when Tara Carpenter tells Ghostface that she prefers the Babadook. Marvelous verdict. Well, with that guys, we have come to the end of yet another video. It was really fun exploring the character who has become somewhat of a cult classic because of his popularity as an internet meme. What do you guys think about the ending? What about the Babadook seemed most scary to you? What are your thoughts on him as a queer icon? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, do remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more like this. Thank you for watching.